This podcast is rated S for spoilers. Listener discretion is advised. Don't forget to view our spoiler-free companion video on our Half Past Podcast channel on YouTube. Welcome to the Half Past Podcast. This is episode 9, the movie review of Ant-Man. I'm Graham Ricks, and here with me is my friend and co-pilot, Ian Jones.
You know, buddy, I think I know a little too much about ants now. Like, like much more about ants than I would want to.
You know, it's funny that you say that because I was listening to, I think it was actually just NPR, and they were saying that they actually met with ant scientists to actually get a lot of this stuff correct, which I thought was very interesting.
Oh, wow. An ant scientist?
Ant scientist.
He has to be...
I have to look this up.
What is the name of an ant scientist? That has to be the life of the party. Like, the second he shows up. Okay, now this place is going to get crazy. Here it is.
The name of the ant scientist is a myrmecologist.
Wow.
That's the name of an ant scientist, somebody who actually spends their career studying ants. And I was like, man, that's such a weird name for that, but I guess it works.
Yeah, what do you do for a living? Well, I study ants. Get out. Get out of here. We're filming a movie about a superhero who shrinks down to the size of ants.
Oh, man. Before we get deep into Ant-Man here, our trailer for this week is Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice. The trailer, right. Huh?
Yeah. Especially, you know, with Comic-Con coming to an end and yep. All these, like, exciting new trailers coming out, I really wanted to talk about this one because I think the teaser to me looked like maybe the movie wasn't going to be that good, but after seeing this trailer, I'm excited.
Yeah, it definitely looks good. I think it's going to be a really good movie. The thing about it is it definitely looks moodier than Man of Steel, which is kind of weird because Man of Steel was pretty moody.
Oh yeah, it definitely has a darker tone.
Yeah, it's like darker than the first movie, and I was just like, man, they went like more into the dark.
Yeah, and usually you think of Superman as being a little bit of a lighter kind of character, and maybe there's going to be some of that with the Clark Kent scenes.
Maybe, I hope so. There's only a couple things I want to say about this trailer, and one of the things that I wanted to say was that I am actually having trouble picturing Ben Affleck as Bruce Wayne. Like, I don't care about the Batman version. It's just when he's acting as Bruce Wayne, I always have this specific idea of what it looks like. And it's funny because it's either going to be Batman the Animated Series or Michael Keaton. And so it's really weird.
Yeah, that's kind of an interesting thing, too, because really, for a whole generation, Michael Keaton really is Batman.
Yeah.
And I think we've talked about it before. Everyone always gets compared to him. And I think it's because he spent the most time maybe as Bruce Wayne, unless you count that third Bruce Wayne movie that Christopher Nolan did.
Yeah, that one where he's basically Bruce Wayne the whole time. But even with that one, like, I was okay with Christian Bale as Bruce Wayne. It kind of felt right to me. And for some weird reason, I'm just like, man, Bruce Wayne looks weird in this movie. And it's just because it's Ben Affleck. And I think he's going to do a good job anyway. And I hope it's going to be a really good movie. The other thing I have to say about this movie is they are really going with the whole God motif. Like, it looks very religious. Like, there's so much scenes where there almost looks like they're worshiping him. And I thought that's like really weird because they touched on that in the first one. But this one, there's like a ton of scenes where like they're all like having their hands up towards him while he's in the backlit by the sun in the sky. It's like, wow, it's like he's Jesus. It makes me feel a little uncomfortable. But other than that, I think it's gonna be an okay movie. We'll see what happens with it.
Yeah, and so I have a theory.
Okay.
About it's a prediction.
All right.
And it's way out there, and I hope I'm wrong. And I'm a huge Batman fan. So
you
I get
are nervous right now. Let's hear it.
I get how crazy this is going to sound.
All right, let's hear it.
I think there's some circumstantial evidence to suggest that part of the reason why Batman really wants to go after Superman is not just because of the Zod fight where, obviously part of Wayne Financial got destroyed and he lost some friends or whatever the case is. But I think it's because, Robin was actually also in this universe. And I think there's some circumstantial evidence to suggest that something happens to Robin and he turns into the Joker.
Oh, what?
And that is just that's just driving me crazy. Like I couldn't believe that DC would do that, and I really hope I'm wrong.
Whoa!
I know,
I
right?
don't even know what your circumstantial evidence is.
Batman has a line in the movie where he talks about, how many good men are left in Gotham after all these years, and how many stayed that way.
Okay.
And I think the consensus is that there's definitely a shot of Robin's uniform, and there's like the yellow spray paint, and it seems like the Joker knows who Batman is if he's the one leaving the notes. So it just was one of those things where I kept watching that trailer and I kept watching Suicide Squad, and I'm like, wow, I really hope I'm wrong about this. And I can already hear people yelling at me about it.
That is quite the theory there, sir. I don't even know what to say about that. That is... You are on record, sir. So we'll see what happens.
Well, I'll just deny everything a year from now.
Oh, that's fine.
I never said that. Some other idiot named Ian said that.
Oh, man. That is absolutely crazy.
I know.
You brought up Suicide Squad. That movie looks better than what the production photos have shown. So we'll see what happens with that one. Yeah, it seems like DC is really trying to get a universe started with all of these movies.
Right.
And we'll see what happens with them, because Marvel's been doing it right for a while now. So
I was kind of hoping at some point we'd see like Harley Quinn in like her original costume.
Yeah.
Like I think that would be kind of cool.
That'd be interesting. All right, I think we've wasted enough time on this trailer. So let's go ahead and get to the Ant-Man movie review. Con man Scott Lang stumbles across a suit that can shrink in size but retain his strength. The previous owner, Dr. Hank Pym, asks for his help so that the technology can't get into the wrong hands. This movie is directed by Peyton Reed, who has also done Bring It On, The Breakup, and Yes Man.
Oh, right.
He actually... Yeah, right?
Seems like the guy to bring in to do a superhero movie to me.
I know. It's like, man, that's the movies he's done. That's kind of interesting, but after I learned that information, it kind of makes sense in this movie, because there's some scenes that just like, oh yeah, I guess that is the same guy, just the way he does it. This movie's starring Paul Rudd as Scott Lang, Ant-Man. He was also in Clueless, Romeo and Juliet, and Knocked Up.
Oh, Clueless, yeah.
Yep. Did you know this past weekend here was the 25th 25th anniversary of Clueless. Huh? Did you know that?
I had it circled on my calendar.
All right, that's good.
That's who could forget that date?
All right. Oh man, that movie is so 90s.
I'm sure every day there's an anniversary for something stupid that I don't care about.
Michael Douglas is Dr. Hank Pym, who is in Romancing the Stone, Wall Street, and The Ghost in the Darkness.
Wow.
Huh?
I like
The
that
Ghost in the
last
Darkness? I'm pretty sure that was the last time I've seen Val Kilmer.
Oh, yeah. What the hell happened to him?
I don't know. He was like so successful in the late 80s and the 90s, and then he just kind of disappeared. And straight to DVD movies for you, sir. That's all that you get from now on. I know you were a star a while ago, but not anymore.
I did see him in MacGruber. He's put on a ton of weight.
Yeah, he has put on some pounds, which doesn't help your career in Hollywood.
No, it really doesn't. You got to kind of be one or the other.
Yeah.
You can't just like float in there like in the middle. I also I loved Michael Douglas in The Game. Like, I mean, that was a really good one.
Oh, yeah, that is a really good one. Evangeline Lilly as Hope Van Dyne. She was also in The Hurt Locker, Real Steel, and the Hobbit movies.
Yeah, she's in The Hobbit because they needed a girl, and she's in Ant-Man because they needed a girl. She's less of a drag in the Hobbit movies, that's for sure.
Yeah, her character in Ant-Man is pretty... She is kind of a drag.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen the Hobbit movies because you know my stance on Peter Jackson and him not cutting his movies down.
Yeah, I thought these were better
nice.
than the first ones just because of that.
Corey Stoll is Darren Cross of the Yellow Jacket. He was in Lucky Number 11, Salt, and The Strain TV show. Have you been watching The Strain? They just started back up here.
No, I do need to catch up on it. I was so excited to see Corey Stoll in this movie, and I'll get into that later on.
Yeah, Corey Stoll is actually, I think he's a talented actor, and I was glad to see him in there too. Bobby Cannavale as Paxton. He was in The Bone Collector, Paul Blart Mall Cop, and Movie 43.
Yeah, he was in Parker and the other guys. And
yep.
Have you seen him in something where he doesn't play a cop? Because this is like the third movie where he's played a cop.
I don't think so. I don't think I've seen him not play a cop. Judy Greer as Maggie Lang. We have been talking a lot about Judy Greer this summer. She's been very busy. And so she was in The Wedding Planner, 13 Going on 30, and Carrie, the 2013 remake. And she's just like, her career is kind of boomed off here. And even though she hasn't been a main character in any of these movies, she's just been real busy. So I think it's good because I actually like Judy Greer.
Yep.
Abby Ryder Fortson is Cassie Lang. She was in basically this movie and a bunch of TV series, including Transparent on Amazon. Michael Pena as Luis. He was in Crash, Battle Los Angeles, and End of Watch. Did you ever... No. I'm assuming you haven't seen End of Watch.
No, I haven't.
Because it has Jake Gyllenhaal in it.
You are correct, sir.
I actually really liked End of Watch. I thought it was a good little movie. I remember I definitely didn't see it in theaters, but it showed up like on Netflix or something, and I went ahead and gave it a watch. It's actually not bad. It's just a nice little kind of day in the life type movie.
Yeah, I did see him in Battle Los Angeles.
Yeah, we went to go see that movie.
Yeah,
together.
Right, yeah. And he is the best character in this movie.
He is awesome in this movie. I do like Michael Pena. And just him in general. He's just a talented actor, and he can do this kind of role, and he can do serious roles too.
Yes.
He's a talented guy. I think he has a very pleasant future in acting. David Dastmalchian as Kurt. He was in The Dark Knight, Prisoners, and a bunch of TV appearances.
Yeah, he's like a really creepy white actor.
Yes.
Isn't he? Like, even when he's trying not to be, he's got like these bug eyes. And
yeah, he's kind of a creepy actor, and the way he shows up in Dark Knight is kind of...
Oh, creepy. Yeah.
And last up we have here is T.I. as Dave, who was also in American Gangster, Identity Thief, and Get Hard.
I don't think I saw any of those.
I've seen Identity Thief, and I think I've seen American Gangster, because that's the one with, actually, I don't think I've seen that one. But anyway, Identity Thief is okay. It's just not one of the better McCarthy movies.
You know, I think if they would have had T.I. play like a tech genius, they could have called him IT. Like, if they switched the parts around and had him have, like, the laptop...
Nice. They probably couldn't think that he would be able to handle that type of role.
Well, like any actor does, all they ever hit is spacebar and like the letter B.
Well, that's true.
And boom, we've hacked into the system.
We've hacked into the system.
And enter, period, enter.
And then they're just like all over the keyboard. And I'm like, man, do they ever use a mouse for these things? Clearly they never use a mouse for these things.
At least the computer screen's on sometimes. Right?
All right, now that we're done with these characters, Jones, let's go ahead and get into our quirks and likes.
All right.
All right, so let's get into our quirks and likes section here. My first quirk here is something that happens in a lot of movies, so it's kind of a trope.
Oh.
And that's the convenient shaft to get into something. I don't understand. Right. I don't understand why there's a shaft that leads to him getting the Yellow Jacket suit.
Yeah, directly over it.
Over it. And they're aware that the shaft is there because they have a laser grid there to protect it.
Of course.
But it's like, well, what's the function of this? It couldn't just be a box. If it was just a box, they would have never got it.
Right, like a vault. You know, like where the original Ant-Man suit was.
Yes.
In a vault. And you couldn't do some Mission Impossible thing. I mean, I guess that's sort of like, you know, like you're saying. I mean, that's a given in a heist movie.
Yeah, it's so weird when they do that. And it shows up in a lot of movies. It's one of the things that always bugged me about Star Wars, too. Where, let's have this shaft that leads directly to the thing that could destroy this entire space station. And why the hell would you put that in there? Why would you do that?
the exhaust.
Yeah, why would you do that? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. It's an aesthetic thing. Well, you know, maybe we could cover that up.
And I'm going to be honest with you, man. I like this movie so much that I have very few quirks. My only other one is the Falcon scene seemed really out of place in the movie. It kind of just, it stops there, and then they introduce this Avenger and to get something else out, which I feel like could have just been cut out of the movie. It makes a little more sense later on, especially with the credit scene and at the end of the movie where it shows the introduction. It was their way of leaking this character to the cinematic universe, and it seems like that was kind of the point of that scene. So it doesn't, to me, it didn't seem like it was really needed in there. It was simply just a link, and that was it.
Well, you know, you bring up a good point. However, I really thought that was one of my favorite scenes. Was, you know, him was really that screw up, and you know, now he's having to deal with an Avenger.
Yeah, which is perfectly fine. It was just an out of place scene to me.
Yeah, do you think they're forcing too much of a tie-in? Like, you know, instead of just doing an Ant-Man movie, that was one of the things I wanted to ask you, because, you know, you talk about that scene being out of place, and maybe this could have just been an Ant-Man movie.
Which I think would have been better I think I would have been okay with them not trying. It's like they're trying to force him into the universe. I feel like the scene at the very end of the credits would have been enough and just let him have his movie. But they clearly went to a decision to have this scene in here that links him with the rest of the Avengers. But I mean, there's other things in the movie where they mention the Avengers also. So I'm not sure why they would force that scene. It just seemed like they could have. All they had to do is just not have that piece of equipment that he needed to get. Those are actually my only quirks, man. So what do you got?
Well, I think one of the big issues for me with this movie is, if you're going to have Paul Rudd in this part, and I think he does okay at it. He's a really charming guy. And when he's in the suit, there's a real problem for me because he isn't Paul Rudd anymore. He's just a voice. And I really felt like they missed the mark here. They needed something like the Iron Man, like going to Tony Stark's face. He's just a disembodied head. And they have him open his mask a few times and actually, say some stuff. But other than that, throughout most of the movie, he's in the uniform and he's just a disembodied head. You just hear a voice. I mean, like in the background chirping.
Just not something that I didn't really catch on, but now just thinking back, it does seem like he's just a disembodied voice. So, it definitely explains the scenes with Iron Man. But I mean, even with Iron Man, I think his character is so strong enough that even when they don't show those scenes, he's still Tony Stark inside the suit. Like his attitude and his charisma is still there. Which is the same thing that happens with Spider-Man. His attitude is still there. It's still present. And he is very silent, basically, when he's in the suit. It's like his character gets toned down once he's in the suit. So, yeah, you're right.
So I think another thing, too, is, which I had a real problem with, is I think they wasted Corey Stoll and Yellow Jacket in this movie. They just didn't do a really good job with the villain, and his performance is there, but he just isn't present throughout, and he's really just in the last battle sequence, which is great, but that threat isn't there, and he at the end of the day he's just like another guy in a suit, instead of this really great actor who I think could have done something a little bit more.
When he is there, I feel like his performance is good, but I guess he isn't in there a lot. It's just kind of at the end of the movie, so. All right.
The other thing, too, is there's way too much melodrama between father and daughter, and it's just, what kind of movie is this? Is it like it's a comedy, and then it's part of a heist, and it's sort of a superhero movie? Then it goes back to being like a family movie.
There is a lot of scenes in there like that seem choppy, I'd have to say, where it goes back and forth where the movie doesn't quite know what it wants to be. And I definitely agree with you on that point.
So I think that's it for me on quirks, buddy.
All right, so let's go and get into the likes. And I actually have a lot of likes about this movie. The first thing I want to say is the movie is just really fun and entertaining overall. It has a very popcorn munching feel, and I think that Paul Rudd, when he's not in the suit, is actually just a cool character. And I think he's different enough from the rest of the characters when they decide to add him in to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And so even if he gets amongst these other characters, I think he can still hold his own a little bit with the others, which is something that I was concerned with this character Ant-Man, because he's not one of the main known ones, even though in the comic books he's a major part of the Avengers. I do like to see the scenes that were in the trailers, all the funny scenes. I did like the fact that there are other scenes in there, because it seems like they threw a lot out there during the trailer. And you know, me and you talk about that all the time, how we hate that they blow everything in the trailer.
Oh yeah.
And even just the scene where he gets punched. That scene we knew was in the movie for a long time, but I like the fact that it continues on because he actually is kind of just away for a while to recover. And then he comes back and he does this little charmy, well, were you aiming for the hand? Like kind of thing. And I was like, oh, well, that's the extra little part to that makes it okay that they had it in the trailer. I also appreciated that they managed to get these action scenes to look less silly than I thought they would. I thought they would be really silly because you see these guys that are basically not getting hit by anything. And I thought that would be a very silly thing. And I think they handled it pretty well in this movie. Well, the other good thing, and I think you mentioned this earlier, you touched on it, is Michael Pena is just awesome in this movie. He's the comic relief. And just all the scenes where he's telling the stories of how he got information, they do it like 2, maybe 3 times in the movie, and it's just kind of fun. I love how it's just his voice the whole time between all these characters, and I'm like, this is awesome. And it really got a rise out of the crowd, like out of the audience that was there. Every time that came up, people seemed to just kind of chuckle and laugh, and it was just something that brought a charm to the movie that I thought was great. I would love to see him, even though he's not Ant-Man. It'd be nice to see if he shows up in another Ant-Man movie. I hope so.
Oh yeah, yeah. He definitely is a fun character who kind of like comes through at the end for them.
Yeah. It's nice. I really like Michael Pena. I think he kind of steals the show in a lot of scenes. The other thing I have in here is, although, like you were saying earlier, it makes it really choppy, I kind of like the father-daughter aspect to it, but it's mainly because it's a way of introducing new characters to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I like that they, at the end of the movie, the whole father-daughter thing with Michael Douglas gets fixed, and then they're basically like, well, she's going to be the Wasp. And I thought that was really just a cool thing to introduce the new character. And later on, even if they get into like a time travel thing, which happens in Marvel movies and just in the comic book universe in general, is Cassie Lang ends up eventually getting Pym particles also. And so she actually is another character that can get brought up later on that they introduced in this movie. And so that's pretty much the only reason why I was okay with the father-daughter stuff, because it introduced 2 characters that could potentially be in another movie to really enhance the cinematic universe, which Marvel has so skillfully created these past several years. And I think that's actually all the likes that I have, Joe. So what do you got over there?
Well, I mentioned it earlier. I really liked, even though I kind of felt like they're forcing too much of a Civil War tie-in. I really liked the scene where they basically have a screw-up and they end up over the new Avengers facility.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really fun. The bedroom fight sequence was really fun, and really watching the fight between him and Yellow Jacket, that's why I really wish there was more Corey Stoll, because that was so amazing. That's such a fun fight. And
yeah, it is an amazing scene in the movie. It's lots of fun, and even though they show a portion of that in the trailer, it doesn't spoil it either.
Right, yeah. So, and to me, that saves the movie, because otherwise this just isn't on par with the Winter Soldier or the Iron Man franchise. It just isn't. There's something really charming about this character.
Yes, it is.
And all the superhero movies don't need to be super epic. If you do a really good job with the character development, there's just too much of the melodrama going on for me, when really I want to see more of that fighting. The fighting that they show of Ant-Man is cool. It's in a unique way. I just want to see more of it. So when he's taking on some of these bad guys, it's it's just amazing to see visually. It's so different from the rest of what we've seen in the Marvel universe.
Yeah, and it just leaves you wanting more of that.
There are some little tie-ins. Like I really liked what they did with Michael Douglas and the original Ant-Man in this, because you see that he actually was kind of like a no-nonsense bad guy, and he was one of the first superheroes.
Yeah, he was.
And that's sort of just like a subtle thing that they show one scene of, but he obviously had this another adventure when he was much younger, which I almost want to see more about.
Yeah, you kind of want more information about his version of Ant-Man, and I also like that they introduced his wife in that also, because again, this is a cinematic universe, and the Wasp is actually a huge character in the Marvel Avengers storyline if you've read the comic books. And so it was nice to see that they had his wife in there, and I do like that, like I said earlier, I like that they've transferred that over to his daughter.
And other than that, I really liked the character of Scott Lang, and just to follow up with like his individual personality fitting in with the other Avengers.
Yeah, he's definitely got, I think he has, you have all these other characters, and he is definitely the one with the most charm to him. And it's strange to say that because you have something like Tony Stark. But Tony Stark is less charming and just more, he's just so narcissistic that you just kind of love him. Like he's just so great about it. But this guy is actually, Scott Lang is just charming, and he's just endearing. And it's good.
Yeah, he also doesn't seem like he's going to have an ego either. And yeah. That's really where, to me, where Cap and Iron Man end up butting heads a lot. Is they both really have whose ever side you're on. And there's definitely two sides. They both have egos, and that's something that's tough in movies where you have people trying to work together, that you can have a character like Ant-Man who is maybe, if he's on Captain's side, that may give them access to technology that they're not going to have because they don't have Tony Stark anymore.
Yeah.
So maybe that levels the playing field. So I think that's it for likes, buddy.
All right, so done with our quirks and likes section. Let's get into our final ratings here, man.
All right.
So I think the movie has a good story, it's fun, and it introduces a surprisingly great new character to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So I'm actually going to say see it, buy it. I really liked it. I thought it was a fun movie.
I will also say see it, but I was really on the fence about it. I thought it was too slow in the beginning, and I felt like right at the end was when they finally sold me on Ant-Man, because who cares about little ants? I don't. But,
the myrmecologists do, Jones.
Right. Well, that's a very small union, and you guys can write me all the letters you want, because I'm sure they don't even use email. They're just, go ahead and write me the world's smallest letter. I'll get out the smallest violin. And
well, if anything, man, if there's anything that people have learned from this podcast, I hope that myrmecology is right. The thing.
That's the thing we want you to take away.
Yes.
Is that this is a career, if you don't, know how to talk to normal people, that you can have. Like, if you're socially awkward, it's fine. You can either go into comic books, or you can talk to ants. Yeah, and I get that you're not talking to ants, but you will be talking to the ants while you work with them. Like, come on, little guy, build that tunnel. Let's go.
Oh man! All right, Jones.
Oh, you're crazy, man.
Oh, man. I would like everybody to please go to our website, halfpasspodcast.com.
Like us on Facebook.
Rate us on iTunes. We always like when we get 5 stars.
5 stars, please. We're on Stitcher and Libsyn.
And email us at halfpastcast@gmail.com. That's halfpastcast@gmail.com.
Tweet us at halfpastpodcast.
Thank you for listening and thank you for your support. Next week we have the Pixels movie. Huh?
Ooh. Wow. All right. That's interesting. It's an idea. It's a concept we really want to see with some actors we really don't want to see.
Yes.
So we'll see here how it goes. There's definitely a lot of people I could never see in a movie again, and but it's a great concept.
I don't know if Tyrion can save this movie.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, he's probably, out of all of them, he's easily the most talented. And he may only be in the one scene. I hope that's not the case.
I hope not.
Doesn't seem like he's there for the Donkey Kong scene.
That is very true.
Oh, poor little guy.
Oh, man.
Oh, I hope he doesn't get eaten by Pac-Man.
Oh, man.
Oh.
This is the Half Past Podcast. I'm Graham Ricks.
Jonesy.
See you next flick.